we have a long-standing tradition of having the Public Service Commission elected. It was initially, the Railroad Commission. So back in 1879, when you would have, to come this way, you would have come horseback, walked, or come in a buggy, or maybe you, if you were coming a long way, maybe you came over on a train. Well, those days are gone because we've had technology disruptors, right? Like cars. You take something like an interstate highway that was a technology disruptor for roads like 1941 and other U.S. highways that had their businesses shut down as a result of interstates like 75 and 85 and 95 being built. So disruption comes and you have to adapt. And one of the things I'm very excited about with the leadership of Cobb EMC is how they're adapting really to changing technology. This new CEO, Peter, here at Cobb EMC, is bringing forward some really innovative ideas. And, it only makes sense. I mean, you've got the base just around the corner. You've got a lot of technology businesses here. You've got Fortune 500 companies, moving here. You've got the Braves here. It only makes sense that you would, have opportunity to state-of-the-art programs. This actually is a shot I made off the back of a Porsche. I don't own it. Porsche e-hybrid. Porsche came in 2015 with a plug-in hybrid, not unlike the Pacifica out there, just a lot faster than the Pacifica out there. These cars are taking off, a lot of different models. You see a few out here, but I think there are 48 different models with a plug now. And it's clearly going to be a disruptive technology. We'll talk more about, how that's evolved. Because I think it is important as you evaluate whether to get an electric car that you want to know, is this just a fad? Am I going to buy something that's going to be worthless in 2 years? I mean, it is worth evaluating. So we're going to talk about that. Chargers are everywhere. This is a screenshot just of this just this area that I pulled off of my iPhone from the PlugShare app. And when you get an electric car, and I've had 3 of them, you really, if you're driving around, you really live by these chargers. I mean, you get to know your favorite chargers, but if you're in an area, like I live in Houston, so I'm a good ways from here, and so, I would want to know where exactly these chargers are, and you can see there's 70 charging locations, just in the area, and so you live with this app, and you no longer have range anxiety once you drive these cars for a while. You just have range frustration, is what it turns into, if you're less risky and you want a car that has more miles, then maybe you get you a Tesla 3 or one of the Jaguars or something that's got longer range. I initially started with a 2013 Nissan Leaf that Cornelius talked me into getting, and he's in the back here. And then Don Francis and the EV Club helped me get a Kia Soul, which Cornelius doesn't like me to talk about. So there's a Kia Soul out there, 2015, that you can buy used, just like the one that I had. Cobb EMC also has a number of things, and we showed you the website version off of a laptop, but here it is right off of your phone, 3 screenshots that I took, and there's a chat with us button that they have. So I think what Cobb EMC, and I find this to be the case with EMCs in general, and I'm a member of Jackson EMC, I've been a member of Walton EMC. EMCs, and not to be critical of Georgia Power, I regulate Georgia Power. Georgia Power is a good company. But I like the down-home family feel of EMCs. I often tease Georgia Power, you don't have prayer at your meetings. The EMCs do. You don't have gospel music at your annual meeting. The EMCs do. I give them a hard time because I guess they can't be as family friendly, as an EMC where you have members. So it really is a different model and a different motive because it's a nonprofit organization. So in many ways, you're blessed to be a part of it. So they're doing some great things and making some new services available to you. As you look at Cobb EMC, and this is the NightFlex rate, which is their new rate, which, and I was talking with one of the members outside who's owned this rate, and I was encouraging him to try to beat the system, to game the rate. And one of the Cobb board members was there chuckling. You know, I wasn't talking out of school, and the Cobb board doesn't mind you gaming the rate. And what I mean by that is, you know, is that if, you know, overnight you're getting free power, but obviously during the afternoons, you know, you're not. And so what my family, and I have 7 children, Wendy and I have been married 37 years, and so we've had various houses based on how many bedrooms we needed at the time for all of these kids. I married a very good-looking, fertile woman, if you're wondering, so that's how I wound up with all these kids. But Cobb's peak rate is on this is 12 to 6. Is that right, Cobb board member? So 12 to 6. So what you do on a rate like this is you pre-cool your house in the morning in the summertime. You cool it down, way down, like 64, like icicles. And then at 12 o'clock, you just shut everything down. You shut everything down, and you don't buy the expensive power. And then what I found, downstairs, my house went up about 1 degree per hour with the heat, and upstairs about 2 degrees per hour. And my kids, they would complain, "Dad, it's hot. Sit in front of the box fan, son. Quit complaining. Go outside. Go play. You sit under the ceiling fan." I would, you know, and my wife, you know, became a cohort with me in this, and we just told the kids, "Look, you want to go to college, right?" "Yes, Dad." "Well, I got to save money somewhere, so we're going to save on electricity. That's one of the places that we're going to save." So there's a good take rate on this. It's continuing to climb, and I think as folks figure this out and see what a great deal it is, you're going to have more and more. I just want to encourage the Cobb board not to ever change it, right? Don't get people addicted to something and then change it because you've got too many people on it. I don't think they will. So you can see from this the number of members that I guess that's owning. Is this owning 1 car and owning 2 cars? I had Cobb prepare this slide for me. So it's continuing to grow. The total hourly usage for NightFlex members, and this is kind of the load shape and how it's working. The idea is that Cobb's incentivizing you to use power in the middle of the night. Why? Because we have extra power in the middle of the night. And it is cheaper. Georgia Power does the same thing. Walton EMC, Jackson EMC, they're incentivizing, but no one's doing it quite like Cobb EMC is doing it. No one's giving it away at night. So it's a great plan. There's my lovely wife, Wendy, with her first electric car, Cornelius. And that's not my house. That's the Nissan dealership, just FYI. And so I had the Kia Soul. Wendy had the Nissan Leaf. And, you know, with 7 kids, I had 4 girls, 3 boys. My girls loved these electric cars. They loved it. "Dad, it's so quiet. So quiet." My boys, "Dad, it's too quiet." "It's too quiet. Dad, I need a muffler or no muffler." And so they've tended to buy loud things. And my girls have loved the electric car. My girls also like not going to gas stations. They like the idea of just pulling in the garage and plugging in. So, in fact, Cornelius, my 18-year-old, I had to teach her to pump gas. We had to turn one of our cars in, our lease electric cars, and she was going to the Prius, and she said, "Dad, I've never pumped gas. You're going to have to show me how to work the pump." So that's these young people. They're learning new things, aren't they? Different than the way we came up. I'll just say this. Even though I have 3 degrees from the University of Georgia, I'll say this: that had I gone to Southern Poly or Georgia Tech, I would have known that you don't put solar in the shade. So this is my house in Winterville, And unfortunately, I put that solar in the shade. Now, I did promise I was going to do it, so that was the best place on the house to put it. But that's in the winter. There's not even any leaves on the trees for the most part. There's evergreen over there with some leaves on it. But I did put solar thermal on my house. And as an energy regulator, I really have wanted to try the technology. That's what I love about Cobb EMC is doing with the loaner car. They've got their board members driving it, got their staff driving it. And look, I don't think you can chat with somebody about electric cars if they've never driven one, if they don't know anything about it. And Cobb's making sure that their employees know how these things work. So kudos to them. So certainly these cars, we talked about disrupting technology. UBS, which is a Wall Street firm, they predict that these cars are going to be very disruptive by 2031. So if you think about disrupting the insurance industry or disrupting the car business or disrupting the petroleum business, we've still got a little ways to go on this, but obviously, as I'm going to show you, as the models have continued to grow, you can see the groundwork is really being laid for a disruption. I'll say this about Georgia Power's electric plug-in rate. Theirs is slightly different, but what we've discovered is, and that's why I wanted to point this out, is that we studied 1,000 customers that had gone to this kind of Cobb EMC overnight free rate. Georgia Power's is $0.015. And what we discovered is that their annual electric bills decreased $180 even after getting the electric car. So before you were driving a gas car, you switched to this rate, you got an electric car, now you're plugging in the garage. So not only are you getting all your fuel from your house, but you've also cut your bill by $180. So this has the ability to change your budget. And I tell folks, look, if you've got 2 cars and you live in an urban area like this, one of them should be electric. And you've got Steve here with Mosin Tussi's used dealership out there. To me, that's the best deal going. Buy you a $10,000 or $11,000 used electric vehicle. I mean, Cobb's giving the rebate in addition to the tax credit. But if you've got a college kid, or you just need this second car for whoever's running the shortest errands for the day or the weekend, you put them in the electric car. So you don't have to go all in. You don't have to wait until every highway is full of electric chargers so you can drive from here to Los Angeles. You don't need to worry about that. Just replace one of your cars. The next time you get a car, just replace one of them with an electric and share the electric car based on whose driving habits that day is going to meet that. So we found that 94% of the customers are saving on the rate, and Cobb is going to see, it's a new rate for Cobb EMC, but they're going to see the same thing, that customers are going to save, or members are going to save money. And what we've found with Georgia Power is that these customers shift about 10% of their energy use to overnight. And Cobb EMC would be very happy with those kind of numbers. So I think they're going to continue to see that. Let me just take you through the evolution of electric cars. In 2011, when I got elected to office, very limited availability. You could very high lease rates, almost no charging available. So you had a Tesla Roadster, you had a Fisker that's out of business, you had a Ford Transit Connect, you had a McLaren, you had a Coda, which I think was a Chinese car, very, very few cars. And then along comes the Tesla Model S in 2012. Chargers are beginning to take place and be installed. In 2013, it is the most important year. It's the year that Nissan came with the Leaf. Can I get an amen, Cornelius? Yeah, I can hear you back there. So Nissan, Chevy, Tesla, they're leading the pack. You had the Chevy Volt out there. You had Teslas being ordered, and there's, you can see the number of cars over here and the total sales. In 2014, BMW arrives into the market. The Germans were a little slow. I was in Germany in 2012, and I was talking to members of their Congress. They call it the Bundestag, and they were saying, they didn't really like electric cars because they couldn't change gears, right? They like changing gears, and they like going fast on the Autobahn. And so they didn't think, they were poo-pooing electric cars in 2012. Well, comes to the market BMW in 2014. You can see the list of models continuing to grow. In 2015, the Georgia effect happened in July when our state eliminated a state tax credit. There was a $5,000 state tax credit that you could stack. I kid you not, you could stack it. You could buy 2 electric cars or lease 2 electric cars, just a 2-year lease. I did this 3 different times. Stack that state tax credit. You could carry it over into 3 different tax years. It was like the golden ticket. And we had a lot of people take advantage of that. It is now gone. Germany's actually is still there. They just took it to 0. So you do get a state tax credit on your car. It's just 0, right? So do the math on that. So Germany's now 100% on board in 15. Their manufacturers are engaged. 2016, the public is starting to get on board. Mercedes is out with a vehicle. BMW is committing to more vehicles. They've made their 5 Series, with a plug as a plug-in hybrid. In 17, now 39 models with a plug compared to just the 6. There's a massive announcement that more OEMs are going to be making the cars. In 2018, 43 models with a plug compared to 6 in 2011. And the technology is getting better and better. In 2019, 48 models. And then I was just telling some of the folks outside about the Cox Enterprises' new Pivot program down on the south side, where they worked with Lyft, the rideshare folks. Purchased, Lyft actually owns the cars, 50 Chevrolet Bolts, and you see the Chevy Bolt out here. And a person can come in there with a driver's license. They can rent that electric car for $266 for a week. They can use it to their heart's content, giving rides. And if they give 95 rides, they get a $175 credit back against the $266. Oh, and they get a key fob that gives them free electricity anywhere they go in the city on these chargers. It really is a phenomenal opportunity really for folks on the south side, maybe who haven't been making a family wage, didn't have a job, for them to go out and have a little entrepreneurial experience. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, in fact, that particular property was once in my family. My grandfather owned that. It was a car auction, and I started working there when I was 11 years old in 1971, selling peanuts to car dealers. Some of you old-timers may have actually been to Bishop Brothers Auto Auction. That was owned by my grandfather. So to see Cox take it, and they bought it from our family and transform it into what now is an electric mobility center, is really cool. And Electrify America is infusing a lot of cash into our city. That's the organization stood up by Volkswagen after the emissions cheating scandal, right? Did any of you own any of those diesel VWs or diesel Audis? So got a couple. We'll open the altar later for repentance for your sins. No, I'm just teasing you. All those cars are down there, by the way. I guess they bought yours back, maybe, and so they're sitting at the Cox facility because Cox is doing the module correction, and then those will be sold and go back out into the market. So the electric cars are coming along. One of the big complaints that people have had is this little fee that you have to pay every year. You know, we under Governor Deal, we converted our whole tag system to a TAVT, pay up front tax, which if you flip cars like my family did, you don't really like that, right? You don't like having to pay all the stuff up front. And my sons all flip cars, so they hate it. But if you have an electric car, you pay this $200, inflation-adjusted fee. Don, what is it now? $213. So you pay this, and even though these little cars don't weigh that much, I mean, they don't have that many parts in them, they're paying more road tax based on weight than than an F-150. And I don't know, our legislature just doesn't have a mind to change it. And I think eventually they will change it because enough people have electric cars and they will complain. You see, this is how you get things changed down there in the legislature, right? You go to church, you see the representative in Sunday school, and you say, I can't believe y'all are doing that. And when he has enough or she has enough people complaining, it gets their attention. I don't anticipate this changing anytime soon. You're going to see more commercial vehicles coming along. UPS, FedEx, others. Amazon has ordered, I think they told me the other day, they've ordered 160,000 Sprinter vans for their delivery. You've seen those gray Sprinter vans in your neighborhood from Amazon? Yeah, so they haven't gone electric yet, but it's just a matter of time. And then these autonomous cars, it's going to be a long time before we get those, but Cox Enterprises at this facility down there, they want those autonomous cars to sleep there at night. They're setting it up where those cars could sleep. They get cleaned, they get charged, and they sleep there at night. So you're going to see more commercial stuff, more municipal fleet charging, from transit buses. You're going to see Greta. If any of you ride the Greta buses, you're going to see some electric Greta buses. If your kids go to the University of Georgia, they're getting 19 electric buses. More and more transit, school buses, Bluebirds now going to be coming off their assembly line in Fort Valley with electric school buses, and won't get any complaints, I'm sure, out of folks on that. And it really makes sense for especially situations like mall security or parking enforcement. Cars that are sitting there idling a lot. How about a K9 police vehicle? Have you ever seen a K9 police vehicle with a dog in the back? The car just sitting there running. It'll run all day. They'll have an SUV out there just running all day. With the electric car, it'll just sit there making no noise with the air conditioner running all day. And it appears that it's not even owned, but the air conditioner's working. It makes sense to do this. You're going to see more and more of these big cities around the country who upgrade their fleet. Atlanta's got some. Cobb County really has been very innovative. Was it Al that really started that? Yeah, really started that. Cobb has tried all kind of different things. I think Cobb is really leading the way in metro Atlanta. I've even started a little radio show. You can listen on demand at WGAUradio.com, where I do a weekly radio show with all kind of guests about electric cars and other technologies. So maybe I've got 5 more minutes for questions, do I? Who's my boss here on this? Do I have 5 minutes? Yes, I have a thumbs up. 5 minutes. Questions? Yes, sir. Are those green charging spots on your map, are they free, or do you have to? Usually you're having to pay unless a company owns it. And sometimes, like the one over at Perimeter, Don, I forget the parking garage, but if you stay there more than 2 hours, it then doubles in price or goes up to $20. You got to do something to get people off the things, right? So you do see companies imposing a charging penalty after a certain number of hours. If you own the charger, you can set it up any way that you want. And Cobb has got a rebate now for businesses, and they'll help you set up the technology on that. Other questions? Yes, sir. Well, when we had the leases, they were turning them over, every couple of years. Cornelius probably has the data after the tax credit on how long people are getting them. It was advantageous to only keep it 2 years in the beginning because I could take the $5,000. They took the $7,500 credit, baked it into the lease. That was an additional amount off the capital cost of the lease. And then I applied for the $5,000. They would give you the $5,000 whether you leased it for 2, 3, 4, or 20 years, whatever the term was. So I would want to take the $5,000 as quick as I could get it, right, and then turn around and do it again. So I got $5,000 every 2 years, and in 1 year I got 2 of those cars, and I stacked the credit. So, but all that's gone. So, but Cornelius, he's speaking and Don's speaking. They'll be able to talk about that. Another question. Yes, sir.
Are you going to start talk about the battery? They've gotten better.
Yeah, I'll let them talk about that. They're more on the technical. I've got about 3 minutes left, so I'll leave that to these guys. Yes, ma'am.
We just saw a charging station for the first time that was free at Cumberland Mall, but Volta, are you familiar with this, or why they're...
Yeah, they had a free one there, John?
Yeah, they have advertising on them.
Advertising.
Advertising is paying for the charging.
Okay, so we've got some folks trying different models like that. That's certainly a good idea. I mean, so I found, and my wife, in driving an electric car for 5 years, she charged herself outside of our house only one time in 5 years. One time. So it's so much cheaper to do it at home. And with Cobb EMC, it's free. So you definitely want to do that. Yes, sir.
911 for an EV that's running out of power and you're on 75 and stopping the traffic?
One, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. If this happens, folks that are experienced drivers, they don't run out. They've learned to do it. Now, when you're first learning, you may run out. Obviously, you're going to call the wrecker because you're going to pull off, and you're going to have a rollback come and get you, and you just don't want to have to do that. So now, you can learn to coast. Let me tell you, when you're in an electric car and you see that you're not getting what you need, you turn the AC off, you let the windows down, you slow your speed down to about 45 miles an hour. So I'll be over in that express lane, because I'm wanting to get home. I don't want to have to stop and charge. I want to make it home. I'm gonna back this thing down so I can get home. People shooting me birds and everything else. Get out of this lane. What are you doing? I'm trying to get home, And I get to ride in the express lane over there for free, because the Peach Fest lane, because I have an electric car. Unfortunately, you can't do that in Cobb County. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but when they negotiated the road, they didn't allow for the exception for EVs over here. Shame on those. I wish I'd been in the meeting. One more question, and I'm going to have to turn it over.
Since you've had both kinds of cars,
Yes.
the insurance costs, are they a lot more?
I got State Farm, and it's virtually the same on any of my cars. Unfortunately, my kids have tickets. They have wrecks. They backed into cars. I was on a trip. I get a text message. Your claim has been filed. Okay, I'm in London. I'm sitting there trying to get on the train. Your claim has been filed. My claim has been filed. What's going on? 10 minutes later, another one. Your claim has been filed. My daughter backed one car into another car in my driveway. What are you doing while I'm out of town? You're number 5. I should have stopped at 4. Oh, okay, well, thank you all. I've got to drive to Plant Vogel tonight, something Cobb EMC doesn't own any of, but the rest of the state does. And I've got to run out there. Rick Perry's coming in town tomorrow. I've got to see him. So thank you very much.